Krawich. Senate Bill 291, a bill to be entitled QRS Star Rating System Reform, the General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Lady from Johnston, Representative White, is recognized to debate the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will repeat the words of Representative Ross. This is a ditto. It's a bill that you passed on April 14th, and it went to the Senate. It's now back. The Senate bill is the identical bill. It was Representative Willis, Clemens, Lambeth, and Jeffers' bill. It's an act to extend the expiration date to hold harmless certain facilities within the Department of Health and Human Services, and it resumes the environmental rating scale, assessments for licensed child care facilities, and to require the North Carolina Child Care Commission to completely recommend recommendations for star rating systems reform and report those recommendations to the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee, and this should be done by 3/24. There's no opposition. It's supported by DHHS and the child care centers and the rating system. So I appreciate your support. You've already voted for it, and send it over there.
Further discussion, further debate? If not, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 291 on second reading. Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will open the vote. Representative Bell, how would you like? Bell, aye. Representative Lofton, wish to vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 118 having voted in the affirmative and none the negative. Senate Bill 291 passed the second reading without objection. Will be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Question for the House, passage of Senate Bill 291 on third reading. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 291 having passed third reading is ordered enrolled and sent to the governor. Senate Joint Resolution 746. The clerk will read.
Senator Rabin, Senate Joint Resolution 746, a joint resolution providing for the confirmation of the reappointment of Charlotte A. Mitchell to the Utilities Commission. The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
The gentleman from Caldwell, Representative Hall, is recognized to debate the bill.
Members, this is the reappointment of Charlotte Mitchell to the Utilities Commission, where she served since 2017. She has a distinguished educational background, evidently has done a pretty good job on the Utilities Commission. Her nomination passed the Senate by a 44-0 vote. I would ask that you vote yes. Thank you.
Further discussion, further debate? If not, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Joint Resolution 746 on second reading. Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will open the vote. Representative Willis, Representative Elmore, wish to vote? Let's see, Representative Elmore. Representative Willis, aye. Representative Cunningham, is she off the floor there? There she is. Representative Cunningham, aye. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 118 having voted in the affirmative, none the negative. Senate Joint Resolution 746 passes second reading without objection. Be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Question for the House. Passage of Senate Joint Resolution 746 on third reading. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Joint Resolution 746 having passed its third reading, ordered printed and enrolled as well. Senate Bill 512, the clerk will read.
Senators Daniel, Rabin, Berger. Senate Bill 512, a bill to be entitled Greater Accountability for Boards Commissions. The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Gentleman from Caldwell, Representative Hall, is recognized to debate the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'll start by pointing out the obvious, and that is, we're going to have a disagreement among the body about the way that appointments ought to work. That is obvious. It's been litigated for a long time in this state. It's been litigated more times, frankly, than just McCrory versus Berger, which is a case, I believe, from 2016 or 17. And if you haven't had a chance to look at that case lately, I would encourage you to do that, because this is a debate that's going to continue on in this body. I anticipate the Senate maybe not liking some of our changes in this bill, and we'll probably end up having a conference committee. So we'll have a philosophical difference about where and how appointments should be made, and that's really nothing new in this state, in this body. But what this bill does is it changes up some of the numbers of the boards and commissions and deals with the appointment power to those boards and commissions. The McCoy versus Berger case really dealt explicitly with legislative appointments. It didn't deal with appointments from other executives across the state. And of course, we have several, the labor commissioner, the insurance commissioner, agriculture, attorney general, so on and so forth. The case didn't really deal explicitly with those, and so many of these boards and commissions now will have an appointee from those various other executive agencies. For example, the Utilities Commission, or, in the case of the Wildlife Resources Commission, the Agriculture Commissioner gets one appointment now. Again, I understand the idea and the debate behind, who should get what appointments, and whether it should be the governor and whether it should be the legislature. And I've thought a lot about it, and I've read through these cases, and where I come down on it is this. Our Constitution is different than the federal government's Constitution. The state constitutions are different. And, if you read through some of those cases, it starts to make sense that our federal Constitution is really what's called an express grant of powers, whereas the state constitution is a specific limitation on those powers. And the state constitution says all other powers are to be exercised through the people of the state, through their elected representatives, which, congratulations, you all are their elected representatives in this state. And that's why we're a bit different when you're thinking about the whole separation of powers debate. It's easy to get caught in thinking, well, I'm thinking about the federal government, and you may think that's the best path. That's the best path, that is. That's a legitimate way to think about it. But the way I see it is we all are elected from across this state. Everybody in here is from some part of this state. We cover the entire state collectively in a geographic way. We're better positioned to be able to have some of that geographically diverse representation on these boards and commissions across the state in positions that are dealing with laws that we create. But here's the kicker. The ability to appoint doesn't really mean the ability to control. These appointees can make whatever decisions they want to, just like they can now with the governor. And in the past, our state Supreme Court has said just that. They've said the General Assembly can make appointments because, again, the ability to appoint is not necessarily the ability to control. And so, again, final 2 points. McCoy versus Berger didn't really deal with the issue of executive appointments as to other executive members outside the governor. And number 2, I just disagree with the decision in McCoy versus Berger, and I think a lot of others do as well. I think a lot of our prior case law in this case disagrees with the holding of McCoy versus Berger. At least one Supreme Court justice in that case disagreed with the holding of McCoy versus Berger. And so finally, I'll stop by saying I'll stop by going back to what I said earlier, and that is, in many ways, this is just a philosophical difference in the way that these appointments ought to take place. The debate's going to continue on. I expect there to be a conference committee, but I would ask you to support this version, being the House's version of this bill, and let us continue to work on it with the Senate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For what purpose, the lady from Guilford, Representative Harrison, rise.
To briefly debate the bill.
The lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I really do appreciate Representative Hall's explanation about the fact that this is something we're going to have to agree to disagree about. But I do think this is a really important bill that affects some really important commissions that affect every single one of us North Carolinians. There's a heavy component of environment and public health in here and education, and I simply disagree with the proposal. I want to make one specific point and then just more generally. So we were told in Judiciary 1 today by the bill sponsor that everybody gets to keep their term, but this bill appears to wipe out all the Board of Trustees, the Department of Transportation, the Board of Transportation. Every single one of them loses their term apparently on June 30th, and the new board is appointed beginning July 1st, 2023. I find that that will be specifically very disruptive to the sorts of decisions that the Board of Transportation is currently making. But more generally, I with all due respect to Chair Hall, I disagree that that this is not a violation, a clear constitutional violation on the separation of powers in our state's constitution. And we have a number of courts that have ruled that way. It was McCrory v. Berger, and it was Wallace v. Bone, and then we also had, I think, Cooper v. Berger too. And I didn't really want to focus on the politics of this, but that seems to be what's driving this. But I, as an alum of one of those very important commissions, the Coastal Resources Commission, it was very important for the kinds of policies that we were adopting as a commission that they be consistent with the governor's vision. And the governor is elected by everyone in the state. And I just think this is a bad move. I think it's an unfortunate political power grab. It's not the first, and it's certainly not going to be the last one. And I just would encourage you to vote no. Thank you.
Gentleman from Wake, Representative Longus, is recognized. Set forth amendment. Clerk will read.
Representative Longus moves to amend the bill.
Gentleman has floor to debate the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is a simple amendment. One of the provisions of this bill changes the composition of the UNC Board of Governors. I'd like for this body to take the opportunity to make a long overdue change to the composition of that board by prohibiting not merely members of this body from serving as members of the Board of Governors, but also lobbyists registered with the state of North Carolina, that is, lobbyists that do business before this body. I think that the Board of Governors has been used over the years as a source of patronage for both parties, and I think that this would instill greater confidence in this body's policy as reflected through the Board of Governors appointments if we were to prohibit lobbyists from serving on that board. This has bipartisan support, and Senator Perry has introduced a similar bill in the North Carolina Senate. I'd be happy to stand for any questions, but I would just ask you all to support the amendment.
For what purpose, gentleman from Caldwell, Representative Hall, rise.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I didn't see the amendment until just now, and I believe Representative Longus did leave it up here, but I've got a lot of papers up here with all the things we're working on. But
Gentleman's recognized to debate the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, what I'm going to move at this point that the amendment be tabled, because I think that it's an issue we're going to continue to work on, like I said. And this may be something that ends up being in the final product. I don't know. But the version that we have right now, I think, is the best version to send over to the Senate and continue those debates over there. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to be recognized for motion.
Gentleman's recognized for motion.
Move that the amendment be tabled.
The gentleman's moved that the amendment be tabled. Is there a second to the motion? And a second from Representative Eiler. Those in favor of the motion, table will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will open the vote. Representative Pierce, wish to vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 73 having voted in the affirmative, 45 in the negative. The motion table has been adopted. The amendment is placed upon the table. Further discussion, debate on the bill. For what purpose? Gentleman from Mecklenburg, Representative Autry, rise.
To ask the bill sponsor a question.
Representative Halls, gentleman yield.
I yield.
He yields.
Thank you, Representative. The short title of the bill, Greater Accountability for Boards and Commissions. Could you direct me to the portion of the bill that deals with the accountability?
Yeah, it's the part where this body gets to decide 170 members and not the one fella or lady, whoever it may be, down the street in the governor's mansion.
To debate the bill, please, sir.
Gentleman has floor to debate the bill.
Well, I appreciate that answer, but the governor of this state is elected by everybody in the state, not just the folks from Caldwell County or not just the folks from District 100, but the people from the entire state. So I would recommend that we vote against the bill. Thank you.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Guilford, Representative Quick, rise?
To debate the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think all of us will agree that North Carolina is a beautiful and wonderfully diverse state, and hopefully all of us have spent some time on the campuses of one of our UNC system institutions, either as a student or as a parent or hopefully as a legislator. We've gone on our campuses and seen the wonderful diversity of the students who are on those campuses. It is my opinion that the Board of Governors also should reflect the diversity of this wonderful state. I want to note that we're in a bad place with diversity on our Board of Governors. Go back to 2010, there were 10 women and 9 persons of color on the board. And while that wasn't very good, it's better than what we have right now. Now we only have 5 persons of color on the Board of Governors, and we only have 6 women on the board. North Carolina's population is 51% women, and yet they currently only represent 25% of the board, and members of color only represent 21% of the Board of Governors. If this bill passes and we add numbers to the Board of Governors, it is my hope that these diversity numbers will improve. Again, women are 51% of North Carolina, and there's no excuse for their representation being just 25% on the governing board of our university system and having that number to decline in recent years. Also, the growth in our state includes persons of color in North Carolina. In fact, it is the non-white population of North Carolina that is spearheading a lot of the growth in this state. And that's not just African Americans I'm talking about. I'm talking about persons of different ethnicities who come to our state from all over the world to contribute to this wonderful state that we have. So we need to reverse this recent trend of declining diversity and have a Board of Governors that more accurately reflects the diversity of our state. For that reason, I'll be voting no against this bill, and I would ask you to do the same.
For what purpose, gentleman from Wake? Representative Longa-Strauss.
To debate the bill.
The gentleman has 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the House. I rise to ask that you vote against this bill because I believe that it is an unconstitutional infringement on the separation of powers. I thank Representative Hall for raising the issue of State Ex Rel. McCrory v. Berger, a case decided by the North Carolina Supreme Court some years ago in an opinion authored by Chief Justice Mark Martin. That opinion raised the issue of not merely separation of powers, but specifically the governor's enumerated power, that is Article 3, Section 5.4, which gives the governor the duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. I want to emphasize that the court's decision, although it did not directly address an situation where the General Assembly gave appointing authority to an officer other than the General Assembly or the governor, did predicate that decision solely on limitation on the governor's power. Now, that clause in our Constitution does not say the executive branch shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. It said that the governor shall take care. And the court defines the ability to control the actions of an executive branch agency as being in part related to having control over a majority of the members of that agency. So dividing the appointments between multiple executive branch officers does in fact violate the Constitution because it dilutes the power of the governor himself, whose duty it is to control that body. And that, of course, that's a power granted not by the General Assembly, but by the people in our Constitution. With that, I'd ask that you vote against the bill.
Further discussion, further debate? If not, the question before the House, passage of Senate Bill 512 on second reading. Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will open the vote. Representative Shepard wish to record. Representative Winslow. The clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 72 having voted in the affirmative and 46 in the negative. Senate Bill 512 passes second reading without objection. Be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Question for the House. Passage of Senate Bill 512 on third reading. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Senate Bill 512, having passed third reading, is ordered engrossed and sent to the Senate. Representative Hall is recognized to send forth committee report. Clerk will read.
Representative D. Hall, Rules, Calendar, and Operations of the House Committee Report. Senate Bill 364, Committee substitute number 1, non-discrimination and dignity in state work, favorable to House Committee sub, unfavorable to the Senate Committee sub.
Senate Committee substitute is placed on the unfavorable counter. House Committee substitute counter pursuant to Rule 36B. Chair, go ahead and counter the bill for tomorrow. We're going to confer and see if we may want to try to dispose of this bill today. It depends how many other bills there are for tomorrow, but we're going to check on that here in just a few moments. So for now, counter for tomorrow. Representative Prather of Buncombe County is recognized to speak to a point of personal privilege.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I would like to take a moment to thank those of you who were able to stop by the portico earlier today to enjoy a few tasty treats from Buncombe County. The rest of the delegation and I wanted to invite y'all to join us as we celebrate the truly awesome food and drink that Buncombe County has to offer. Specifically, you'll see a bottle on your desk from one of our local businesses that was just awarded Best Drink in 2022 by Our State Magazine. Quick note, if you're not drinking that immediately, it does need to be refrigerated because it is fermented. Our county, Buncombe County, has a rich history when it comes to farming and small businesses. One of the organizations that we highlighted today operates on land owned by that family since 1919. One of our best-known landmarks, the WNC Farmers Market, has been thriving since its opening in 1977, bringing farmers and merchants from all over western North Carolina. In addition to the year-round market, we've got 8 seasonal tailgate markets spread out across the whole county, bringing good local food to people where they are. Buncombe celebrates our farmers and entrepreneurs every opportunity we get, with almost a dozen festivals centered just on food and drink. We have several nonprofits that focus on helping teach people about healthy food and where to source it, as well as farms that teach skills to people in recovery. We have groups that give local farm tours and community garden tours, educating guests about the surrounding communities at the same time. We have a UNC system institution that harvests edible plants on campus and focuses on sustainability in the dining hall. Our region was a leader in the farm-to-table movement that has swept across the country. All that to say, we do food and drink well, and we think you should know. So thanks again to those who joined us in celebrating Buncombe County's entrepreneurial and agricultural spirit. I will leave you with a short toast submitted by Shanti from Shanti Elixirs. To the people of North Carolina, may your days be filled with goodness and sweetness and love. May you know peace. May you know kindness and take opportunities to be kind. May you care for each other and appreciate each other. May you prosper and grow each day, and may you know your invaluable worth, and may it uplift you all. Thank you.
And members on motion, Representative Prather of Buncombe County. The chair is happy to extend the courtesies of the gallery to Shanti Volpe, owner of Shanti Elixirs, and Heather Ward of Innovation Development. I want to thank y'all for being here with us today. They're up here on the right. Please join me in welcoming our guests with us today. Thank you. Members, we've got one bill the chair is looking at adding. It's a local bill. It's an act to allow the Johnson County Board of Commissioners to redistrict their residency districts. Any objection to that bill being added to today's calendar? All right, seeing none, bill be added to today's calendar. For what purpose, gentleman from Chatham, Representative Reeves, rise.
It was a point of personal privilege. If you want to proceed on the calendar, I'm fine.
Gentleman has the floor.
Well, I just want to make sure, Mr. Speaker, we had recognized a lot of us lost a really good friend this past weekend, Conan Morgan. For those who have been in politics for a long time, and I know the Speaker in particular, Conan, despite being only 42 years old, has been a fixture in North Carolina politics for the last 20 years. Worked on tons of campaigns, worked in a lot of different spaces, and it's just somebody we lost way too soon. I got a chance to know Conan when I got up here. And it's funny that as much as we have all of our debates and our differences and a lot of the toxic atmosphere that you see with politics, Conan was, even at a young age, an old soul in the sense of he didn't participate in that. He was just a good person who loved the state of North Carolina, who was always there to be helpful. Conan would do things, and a lot of times he wasn't even getting paid. He just wanted to help people out, especially when he saw people running for office, young candidates, young folks that were just getting started out. And you hate seeing anybody pass, obviously, but you especially hate to see somebody with that much promise, that much reach, cut down at such an early age. and it is something. And so I just ask that when we do close session today, that we do close session in memory of Conan, and that all of you keep his wife and the rest of his family in your prayers. It's a really tough time. They're going through a tough time. Some of the folks here are. I know that Representative Hawkins and he and several others all came up together in politics, and so we just appreciate you keeping them in your prayers, and thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing that with us, Representative Reed. He was a fine man. For what purpose does the lady from Wake, Representative Lou, rise?
Point of personal privilege.
Lady has the floor.
I also want to share my story with Conan. He was such a special friend, and you all know how challenging it is to run as a first-time candidate. 4 years ago, when I first ran for Cary Town Council, I didn't have any political experiences. Conan was the person who guided me through, who believed in me, and he was a friend, he was a mentor. He was there for me every step of the way. When I was down, he lifted me up. When I wasn't believing myself I could do it, and he was there to encourage me and made me believe that I could do it. No race was too small for him. No candidates were too insignificant for him. He was very kind, always so patient. He knew the numbers inside and out. He was just a kind person, so special to so many of us. He helped elected so many first-time candidates, give them a head start when you didn't have a lot of campaign money to support your race. He's a special friend to me, and I just wanted to let everyone know that we'll all remember his legacy, we'll carry on his legacy, and we'll fight what he believed in us.
Thank you, Representative Lee. For what purpose does the gentleman from Wake, Representative Jones, rise?
Point of personal privilege, sir.
The gentleman has the floor.
I just want to add to what the minority leader said and what others have said about Conan. He was a very, very special person. He managed my last campaign, but I knew him well before that. And I think if I had to say one thing about him, it was very unique. He had a way of calming me, at least, and I think others, in the midst of frenzy and a storm. He was a very calm guy. He was very, very smart, and he carried himself with humility. So my hat's off to him, and I'm going to miss him. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Representative Jones. Members, we have at least one bill, maybe some others we're conferring here. But let's go ahead and take up a local bill, Senate Bill 379. The clerk will read.
Senator Sawrey, Senate Bill 379, a bill to be entitled, Allowed Changes, Resident Districts, Johnson County, the General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Gentleman from Johnson, Representative Strickland, recognized to debate the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 379 is a local bill. It is an act to allow the Johnson County Board of Commissioners to redistrict their residence districts. Currently, Johnson County has 7 districts. We vote countywide. You do have to live in the district. This map or districts that we currently operate were established in 1992. So therefore, we have gone through 3 censuses. Johnson County is recognized as one of the fastest growing counties in the state. We have roughly 234,000 residents. So what we have one district that comprises estimated citizen population of 52,956, and our lowest one is 18,744. So the commissioners have requested the local delegation comprised of Representative Howard Penny, Representative Donna White, and myself. We concur. They have sent us a resolution, so we would ask that you hit the green button today. Thank you.
Further discussion, further debate? If not, the question before the House is the passage of Senate Bill 379 on second reading. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 379, having passed second reading, will without objection be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 379 on third reading. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 379, having passed third reading, is ordered and rolled. Members, the bill the chair read a few minutes ago, Senate Bill 364, conferred with the majority leader and the minority leader. It appears if we dispose of that bill today, we will not need recorded votes tomorrow. So with that, chair adds to today's calendar Senate Bill 364. Clerk will read. Chair, that's correct. Chair directs it be withdrawn from the 6-1 added to today's calendar. Now, clerk will read the bill.
Senators Daniel, Johnson, Overcash, Senate Bill 364, a bill to be entitled Non-Discrimination and Dignity in State Work. The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Gentleman from Caldwell, Representative Hall is recognized to debate the bill.
Members, I think that the government should never require anybody to say anything. That is, the government should never compel someone to make any speech at all. And I think that includes to the government's hiring practices. I think it includes any time the government is looking at an applicant to go to a government school. They shouldn't be basing those decisions based upon politics, nor should they be requiring anyone to give some sort of loyalty oath in order to get those positions. And so this bill just simply says that in those applications for employment and applications to schools, students can't be compelled to say certain things. They can't be compelled to talk about these issues of whatever political contemporary issues are being debated of the day. The question that I've received before is, well, what if somebody said something really bad on Facebook and everybody agrees that it's really bad? Well, this bill doesn't prohibit any administrator or manager from looking at that and knowing about it. This bill is simply dealing with situations where an employee or a potential student's brought in and basically on their application or in the interview forced to agree with whatever political opinion there may be. Simple as that. Members, the UNC Board of Governors has already done this. This bill will actually codify what the UNC Board of Governors has done into law. It also makes it apply to the rest of state government, except for those political appointments, of course, that the governor has, and it also will apply to community colleges. So I appreciate your support.
For what purpose the lady from Durham, Representative Austin, rise?
To debate the bill.
And he has floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, this bill, the language of it appears to be, I think, really clear. Unfortunately, I think it's really vague, particularly in Section 1. To the bill presenter's point, just in terms of what actually constitutes matters of political debate or social action, I think there's some instances where that's going to be very clear, both to the agencies and the applicants, kind of what that language means. But I think just there are going to be so many instances that we can't contemplate today, and that is going to really make it difficult for agency officials who have to implement these restrictions. And so I think that's incredibly problematic. And I think both sections of the bill, frankly, are intended to, or will, chill both the hiring and the training processes of our agencies, and now not only for our agencies, but also for the UNC system and our community colleges. So I think the bill's problematic, and I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
For what purpose, gentleman from Wake, Representative Jones, rise.
Speak to the bill.
The gentleman has floor.
Well, when I read this initially, my internal gut siren went off, because I've learned over the years that when governmental bodies start making laws about speech, they're walking into some tricky territory. There's a reason that the First Amendment is the First Amendment, because our forefathers, at least some of our forefathers, thought that it was important to tell the world that the United States of America would not put up with what the King George had been doing to the folk that lived over there and the folks who came over here when it came to speech. So when we tread out on these waters, we are treading on dangerous and sensitive territory. Now, as a lawyer, I probably should be happy because I'm in employment law. Y'all gonna send me some business. But that's not what I'm in here for. So I would suggest that this bill needs some serious contemplation before we jump in this pool. Now, the First Amendment gets into all types of things other than speech association and so forth. But it's important here to know, I want to ask 3 questions about this bill. The first one I suggest we ask is it necessary? Somebody having a problem speaking? I don't think so. I don't think anybody's having a problem speaking, at least in the greater society at large and around. Who's going to get arrested for speaking or beaten up for speaking? Now, you can insult your neighbor or something and get in trouble, but I don't think anyone's having a problem speaking. Second question, and this was kind of funny as I reflected on it, how do we propose we implement this? Being an old judge, I wonder, how are we going to do it? Where are the cases coming from? How do you rule on whether this has been violated? So think on that. Last question. Will this create unnecessary litigation? Resounding answer, yes. Absolutely, positively, without doubt. This is going to create a mess. So, to those who sponsored this, I would ask you, ask yourself those questions, because we're getting into some messy business here. Now, as my mother used to say, we're opening, and it wasn't original with her, we're opening Pandora's box. You know, when they lift that lid up, because I promise you, this will launch a mess. And it's not necessary. It's not needed. People are having no trouble speaking. Now, you may hear about a situation here and a situation there, but so much a problem that the legislature of North Carolina has passed this bill? I'm confused. So I urge you, rather than just doing a straight party line thing, think about it. We got a little time. We can measure and have a few more committee hearings and let the public come in and speak. We got time. We don't have to do it like this. So I'd urge you, if we vote today, vote no, send this thing back to get some more work. And I thank you for listening to me.
For what purpose does the lady from Guilford, Representative Harrison, rise?
To briefly debate the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, just to add to the points that have already been made, we had a healthy debate about this in Judiciary 1 this morning, and a constitutional lawyer who spoke against the bill described it as a constitutional issue because of the vagueness of the language. So it looks like this is the second unconstitutional bill this body might be passing today. I proposed a hypothetical to the to the bill sponsor, and I said, so suppose the Department of Environmental Quality is hiring someone and wants to know that person's position on climate change, especially this current governor who has made reducing our carbon footprint a big priority. And the response was that it would be up to the courts to decide whether it violated this law or not. So that's to Representative Jones's point about all the litigation that will ensue. Then I started to think, well, say somebody is getting hired to work in the prosecutor's office and either is very much always for the death penalty or always against it, but couldn't keep an open mind on that and prosecuting cases. There are innumerable examples of where you need to know what the job applicant's position is to faithfully execute that job description. I think that Representative Alston made the point in committee, and on the floor about the training, and that's really important. The issue about systemic racism is not going away, and it's very present in our society. And the issue about implicit bias is something that we all need to be thinking about. And it just seems like this is going to have a very chilling effect on one hand and inviting a lot of litigation on the other. And I think it's our third bill on censorship this session in the House. And I would just urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Further discussion, further debate? If not, the question for the House passage of Senate Bill 364 on second reading. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote no. Clerk will open the vote. Dixon, aye. Representative Christian Baker wish to vote on the bill. Representative Pierce wish to vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 72 having voted in the affirmative, 46 in the negative. Senate Bill 364 passed second reading without objection. Be read third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Question for the House, passage of Senate Bill 364 on third reading. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Senate Bill 364 having passed third reading, the bill will be returned to the Senate. Members, we have one additional bill that we are working to get added to today's calendar. It's working its way here. It's a local bill from, I believe, Nash County and Catawba County that is being still in rolling. So we're still waiting on that bill to make its way here. So while we're doing that, I do know we have some notices and announcements, but let's go ahead and welcome our pages who are here with us. I would ask our pages to come forward. And while they're doing that, for what purpose does the gentleman from Wake, Representative John, rise?
I have a point of privilege, Mr. Speaker, and I
Gentleman
defer to after the pages are recognized.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So, members, there will be one additional vote today, it looks like. So, our pages who are here with us this week, we're going to welcome you. And what we're going to do here in just a moment is the clerk is going to call your name and where you're from. I would ask when the clerk does that, if you would step forward and wave so that my colleagues and I will each know who you are and where you're from. With that, the clerk will introduce our pages.
Benjamin Bullard, Duplin County, sponsor, Representative Jimmy Dixon. Jeffrey Chin, Union County, sponsor, Representative David Willis. William Chopin, Catawba County, sponsor, Representative Mitchell S. Setzer. Savannah Curran, Wake County, sponsor, Representative Maria Savania. Casey Hoke, Person County, sponsor, Speaker Moore. Austin Hoke, Person County, sponsor, Speaker Moore. Jacob Hornstein, Orange County, sponsor, Representative Alan Boincy. Advika Karthik, Guilford County, sponsor, Representative Ashton Wheeler Clemens. Justin Kim, Wake County, sponsor, Representative Glorstein Brown. Hunter Murphy, Chatham County, sponsor, Representative Robert T. Reeves II. Fatima Nadim, Davidson County, sponsor, Representative Sam Watford. Kyler Osby, Johnson County, sponsor, Representative Ken Fontenot. Shelton Pippin, Beaufort County, sponsor, Representative Keith Kidwell. Asta Shah, Wake County, sponsor, Representative Cynthia Ball. Sebastian Snyder, Forsyth County, sponsor, Representative Jeff Singer. John Tomorrow, Mecklenburg County, sponsor, Representative John R. Bradford III. Andrew Zoo, Orange County, sponsor, Representative Alan Boincy.
To our pages who are here with us this week, we want to formally welcome you with us. I know you've been working the committees and, of course, the session today, and there will be committees as well tomorrow. I hope this has been a good experience for you, where you've had a chance to learn a little bit about government, more importantly, maybe make some friends from around the state. We'd ask my colleagues to please join me in welcoming and thanking our pages for their service to us. You may return to your post. For what purpose does the gentleman from Franklin, Representative Winslow, rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the announcement.
The gentleman has the floor.
Banking is moved to Tuesday, room 1228 at 11 o'clock. We will have votes.
Thank you. For what purpose does the gentleman from Forsyth, Representative Lambeth, rise?
For an announcement.
The gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, it's always exciting when you announce no votes on Thursday because we get a long weekend for the most part. However, I would caution the area chairs that we got a lot of work to do. We're working to finalize the area targets that we will communicate to you, hopefully in the morning. That's our plan, and get you started. We are on a reasonably tight timeline, so we really do need you to stay here tomorrow so that you can get your target and you can start your discussions with the Senate colleagues, hopefully start on the provisions, and then try to work through some of the number issues. I'm more than happy to try to answer any questions about the budget schedule, but that is trying to move us along and keep us on schedule to get us out of here before the end of June.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Richmond, Representative Moss, rise? For what purpose does the gentleman from, go ahead, gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, having submitted a representative statement with the clerk, I ask that it be read in its entirety upon adjournment and spread across the journal, and would like to be recognized to speak briefly to the statement.
So ordered, and the gentleman is recognized to speak to a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Donald Martin Dawkins, 84, passed away May 26th. Don was born and raised in Rockingham, North Carolina, and graduated from Rockingham High School in 1956. Don would continue his academic career by graduating from the North Carolina State University in 1960, where he joined and participated in the college's ROTC program. Following graduation, Don enlisted in the United States Army as a second lieutenant, and while in the military, Don served 2 tours to Vietnam as a combat helicopter pilot with the 114th Aviation Company. His first tour in Vietnam went from May 5th, 1963 to May 21st, 1964, and his second tour lasted from July 7th, 1967 to July 1st, 1968. During his career, Don garnered several accolades. The medals Don earned include the National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Vietnam Campaign Medal, Bronze Star Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Distinguished Flying Cross, Vietnam Cross of Gallantry, Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, Army Aviator Badge, and the Air Medal. Don was honorably discharged in 1971. Following his military career, Don would go on to graduate from St. Mary's University School of Law and served as an attorney in Rockingham for many years. Don also served as a minister in a Tabernacle United Methodist Church and served as a North Carolina State House of Representatives for 8 years. Don was a great man, great asset to our community, and I felt it was worthy that he be mentioned today, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all's time.
Sir, thank you, Representative Moss. For what purpose does the gentleman from Lincoln, Representative Sane, rise?
Mr. Speaker, having submitted a representative statement with the clerk, I ask that it be read in its entirety upon adjournment and spread across the journal, and would like to be recognized to speak to the statement.
So ordered, and the gentleman is recognized to speak to a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I want you to join me today as we recognize and celebrate the 75th anniversary of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, also known as NASCAR. This prestigious organization, which serves as the governing body for motorsports in the United States, has left an indelible mark on our nation's sporting landscape. North Carolina has played an integral role in the history of NASCAR, hosting numerous races since its inception. In the inaugural 1948 NASCAR season, the state of North Carolina proudly hosted 30 of the 52 races, spanning cities such as Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and Charlotte, to name a few. The first NASCAR Cup race, strictly for stock division, took place in Charlotte's iconic 3/4 mile dirt track in June 1949, marking a significant milestone for the sport. Today, NASCAR's corporate offices are situated in Charlotte, Concord, and Conover, solidifying North Carolina's status as a focal point for the organization. Over 90% of NASCAR teams are now based in the state, and North Carolina has produced 9 NASCAR Cup Series champions, contributing to an impressive tally of 25 Cup Series championships overall. NASCAR's reach extends far beyond the borders of the United States. With over 1,200 sanctioned races annually in 12 countries and more than 30 U.S. states, NASCAR has become a global phenomenon. In National Series race events are broadcast in over 29 languages, captivating audiences in 195 countries and reaching more than 600 million households worldwide. The impact of NASCAR resonates not only through its cultural significance, but also through its economic contributions. Each NASCAR Cup Series race weekend, like this past weekend, attracts an average attendance of over 100,000 passionate fans who bring enthusiasm and energy to every event. Furthermore, NASCAR's investment of $53.5 million in the state-of-the-art NASCAR Productions facility in Concord demonstrates its commitment to enhancing the industry's infrastructure. Members, let us reflect on the 75-year journey of NASCAR, honoring its past, present, and future. This momentous occasion calls for a year-long celebration embracing the remarkable achievements of NASCAR and its enduring legacy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Singh. For what purpose does the gentleman from Onslow, Representative Shepard, rise? For what purpose does the gentleman from Beaufort, Representative Kidwell, rise?
For an announcement.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Finance Committee will meet 9 o'clock Wednesday morning and 6:43.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Wake, Representative John, rise?
Point of privilege, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, sir. Members, Mr. Speaker, I've been troubled, and I'll try to explain why. We've been away a few days, and maybe it's because of all my years as a judge. Cases typically had a clear conclusion. But I've had, and I continue to have, this nagging concern about a recent instance of inappropriate language in this chamber. Yes, there were 2, and one apology was promptly tendered and graciously accepted. However, in the other, none has been forthcoming. And notwithstanding the action of the majority party leadership, which I acknowledge, that silence has been deafening and, in my view, hangs over this chamber like a dark cloud. Since that latter incident, long ago lessons from my late mother keep coming to mind. Mom had a very well-defined code of social conduct and didn't mind letting us know about it. And I keep hearing her voice insisting that the lady, a member, is owed an apology. The lady states that the apology should be directed to the impressionable young people who were present in this North Carolina House of Representatives to observe and participate in the operation of their government at work. And there are also many who feel an apology is due this body and its membership. Based on my 7 years' experience with all of you, I know there are many persons of good heart throughout this chamber. And I truly believe that in those hearts, you all very likely agree that all these folks are right. That a public apology to the lady is most certainly in order. That an apology is owed and due to the House pages. And that an apology to this body and its members is indeed required, and that one should promptly be tendered. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For what purpose does the lady from Pitt, Representative Brown, rise?
Point of personal privilege, please.
The lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just rose to ask everyone to share with me, my colleagues, that on tomorrow, my mother-in-law will be celebrating her 99th birthday. She will be 99 years old. Thank you.
For what purpose does the lady from Wake, Representative Perret, rise?
For a point of personal privilege.
The lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I feel very lucky to be blessed with lots of opportunities and luckiness since serving in the General Assembly last session and this session. And one example of that is I hit the jackpot on the seatmate for both sessions, last session and this session. And yesterday, either yesterday or today, is a very special day that Steve Tyson, Representative Tyson's, had a great birthday. So please join me in wishing Representative Tyson a happy birthday.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Union, Representative Willis, rise?
For a point of personal privilege.
The gentleman has the floor.
You know, we spend a lot of time here in Raleigh away from our families, away from our friends and homes, but occasionally we get time to do things that we love, and last weekend was no exception for me. I got to spend time, one of my favorite places, sitting on a cold, hard bench for hours watching my son swim. He rewarded that behavior, thank God, by qualifying for the 2024 U.S. Olympic trials.
Congratulations. For what purpose does the gentleman from Mecklenburg, Representative Lofton, rise?
Point of personal privilege.
The gentleman has the floor.
Two quick things. First, I want to just acknowledge that today, say happy anniversary to my wife. It's our 20-year wedding anniversary today. And then secondly, gratitude for all of you for brevity so I can get home and we can celebrate. Thank you.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Stokes, Representative Hall, rise?
Point of personal privilege.
The gentleman has the floor.
Representative Steen a second ago recognized NASCAR on their 75th birthday. My seatmate has a very similar birthday, maybe not close to that number, but I'd like to wish my seatmate Brendan Jones a very happy birthday.
For what purpose does the lady from Wake, Representative Sylvania, rise?
Mr. Speaker, having submitted a representative statement with the clerk, I asked it to be read in its entirety upon adjournment and spread across the journal, and would like to be recognized to speak to the statement.
So ordered, and the lady is recognized to speak to a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my honor and privilege to provide a representative statement observing the month of May, even though it's the last day of the month, as Asian American Pacific Islander Month. AAPI are among the fastest growing communities in North Carolina, and we have lived here in North Carolina, worked, contributed to the state's economy, government, military, arts, literature, education, science, and technological developments. And in terms of our contributions from our own branch of government, our General Assembly has several AAPI members, including Senator Jay Chaudhary, Mushtaba Muhammad, Michael Lee, and Representatives Yalu and I, who mark your first women AAPI representatives to this great body. And this month has marked also some great accomplishments of AAPI, including creating an AAPI legislative caucus. It is bicameral, bipartisan, and we hope that it's going to be a model for things to work together to come. The chairs of that legislative caucus include Representative David Willis and Senator Mushtaba Muhammad, and has members that not only are of AAPI descent, which I had mentioned, but also people who are our allies or who have children who are AAPI, including Representative Goodwin and allies like Representative Jared Lowry, and so many others. And we encourage you to join our caucus to also go forward in bipartisan efforts together. So just to close, I'm just thankful for May 2023 to be acknowledged as AAPI Heritage Month, and strongly encourage not only in this month, but every month, to observe, recognize, and celebrate the culture, heritage, contributions, sacrifices, and accomplishments that AAPI has made to this great state of North Carolina. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Swain. For what purpose does the lady from Orange, Representative Price, rise?
A point of personal privilege, please.
Lady has the floor.
Last week, my seatmate had a birthday as well. She thought we would wait till next week, but I just wanted to say happy birthday to her as well. Thank you.
For what purpose, gentleman from Mecklenburg, Representative Bradford, rise?
A brief moment of personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you. My parents are here today. Just real quick, my mother turned 70 on Friday, so happy birthday, Mom. I love you. Or Saturday, forgive me. Saturday was her birthday. So that's great. My son tomorrow flies to Seattle one way, and he will hop on a bicycle and ride 4,300 miles from Seattle, Washington to Washington, D.C., all in the name of the Ability Experience, which recognizes individuals with not disabilities but abilities. And he had to raise over $6,500. He raised $11,000. He'll be riding about 80 or 90 miles a day, and they get 1 day a week of rest, and then they'll be doing service projects, building things like handicap accessible ramps and things like that. So it'll be about 70 young men from his fraternity, and we're so proud of him. And I know he's probably not listening because he's preparing to leave, but I just wanted to recognize him and tell him that his mom and dad and sisters are very, very proud of him, and I look forward to following him on Instagram. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For what purpose, gentleman from Craven, Representative Tyson, rise?
For a point of personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Next Wednesday at 8 a.m. in room 415, there will be a joint advanced air mobility caucus. It is a caucus that is recently formed. This will be the first meeting. Zach Hawkins and I are the chair in the House, and you will learn a lot about air mobility, drones, if you will. This is a potential $100 billion industry for the United States, and as many as potential 20,000 employees in North Carolina. I would like all of you to come that have an interest in air mobility. Thank you.
Thank you. And members, we do have this one bill. The chair is now in possession of the bill. So Representative Hall is recognized to send forth the committee report. Clerk will read.
Representative D. Hall. Rules, Calendar, and Operations of the House Committee Report. Senate Bill 248, Committee Substitute Number 1, National Board of Education. Number of members, districts. Favorable, House Committee Sub. Unfavorable, the Senate Committee Sub.
Senate Committee Substitutes placed on the unfavorable calendar, the House Committee Substitute calendar. Without objection, today's calendar. So that members will have time to double check that online. We'll take a couple other notices and announcements. For what purpose the lady from Mecklenburg, Representative Carney, rise?
For a point of personal privilege.
Lady has the floor.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is my 21st year. I have never done this on the floor, but I have to do it today, and I'm able to do this. And I want to thank Representative Winslow and Speaker Moore for saying that we can, with no votes tomorrow. Today is my husband's 79th birthday. And if he's listening, which I don't think he is on the golf course this morning, but if he is, thank the Speaker and thank Representative Winslow. I am coming home to celebrate your birthday on your birthday. Happy birthday.
Senate Bill 248, the clerk will read.
Senators Barnes, B. Newton, Senate Bill 248, a bill to be entitled National Board of Education, Number of Members, Districts, the General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
The gentleman from Nash, Representative Chester, is recognized to debate the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In light of Representative Lofton's request, I'll keep this brief so he can get home. And this is just an act to avoid political pressures and educate children on time. We're going through a demerger between Nash and Edgecombe County. This allows us to align the seats back from 11 to 7, and they'll match the county commissioner seats. Also, there was an amendment to add Catawba County. I'll let Representative Setzer speak to that if he wants to.
Gentleman from Catawba, Representative Setzer, is recognized to debate the bill as well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, the little part that was added to it has been a little bill that's already passed the House. It regards partisan school districts in Catawba County, and I'd appreciate your support for this little legislation.
Further discussion, further debate? If not, the question for the House, passage of Senate Bill 248 on second reading. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Senate Bill 248, having passed second reading, will without objection be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Question for the House, passage of Senate Bill 248 on third reading. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 248, having passed third reading, will be returned to the Senate. And members, when we adjourn today, we are going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Morgan, so we'd ask members to take that into account whenever we come to that part so that we can not have a lot of noise and distraction. Further notices and announcements. For what purpose does the gentleman from Wayne, Representative Bell, rise?
For a point of personal privilege and an announcement, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has the floor for both.
Thank you very much. Members, North Carolina should be very proud because starting on Friday, we have 8 teams from our state playing in the College World Series. The most important one being University of North Carolina at Wilmington, my alma mater. So if you get a chance, please venture down as we will beat Duke on Friday in advance to hopefully beat Coastal Carolina and go to Omaha. But I'd like to personally congratulate UNCW, UNC, Duke, NC State, Wake Forest for securing the #1 overall seed. Let's see, UNC Charlotte, Campbell University, and also East Carolina. So we all should be very proud of our college athletes. And Mr. Speaker, an announcement.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans, we will caucus in 1228 immediately after session. As you know, this is the last agenda item for today, so please be prompt. Thank you.
Any further notices or announcements? Seeing none, the gentleman from Caldwell, Representative Hall, is recognized for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House do now adjourn to reconvene Thursday, June 1st at 10 a.m., subject to the standard stipulations set forth in Rule 15.1 and in memory of Conan Morgan.
Representative Hall moves, seconded by Representative Reeves, that the House do now adjourn to reconvene Thursday, June 1st at 10 a.m., subject to the standard stipulations set forth in Rule 15.1 and in memory of Conan Morgan. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the House stands adjourned.